As you saw in the last video, we got done with the entire front suspension on the broken Unicorn, and she's handling pretty good now. There's still a few other things I gotta take care of, sort those out, but I want to take care of the engine first because that's a huge concern for me. As you can see behind me, there's finally not a car in my garage, so I'm gonna take this opportunity to clean it up first and then pull the car in because I like a nice clean garage to work on things. Ideally, you want to drive for like, 10, 15 miles, but that's not an option. I'm just going to take her for a quick little spin here, at least enough to get the oil up to temperature and the oil pressure seeping through every part of the engine. She's running well still. That's good. She's been sitting for a couple days. Luckily, I do not have any electrical gremlins with this thing yet. When I read the spec on this thing, it was like 4,900 pounds. I was like, oh man, she's gonna handle like a boat, but surprisingly well composed. She just feels like a lighter, smaller car than she actually is. I cannot wait to get this car right. I'm gonna take her everywhere. Take her up and down the East Coast. Maybe a little Canada trip. Oh, it's gonna be fantastic. When the suspension just initially gets its load. It was just like a real quick jab to the suspension. It's like this kind of like just pop. I don't know what that is. This thing gets surprisingly awful if you look at me. I think I'm averaging like 16 miles to the gallon. I didn't expect to be amazing, being that she weighs nearly 5,000 pounds. Station wagon, all-wheel drive, twin turbos, like I get that, but I was at least hoping like close to 20. If anybody knows if that's like the average for this thing, about 16, 17, let me know, because I'll feel less bad then. I think it might have something to do with the carbon buildup in the engine though. It might be affecting fuel economy. We're gonna find out after the end of this. All right, let's talk a little bit about what I'm going to be doing today. Well, over the next few days anyway. Doubt I'm going to get it all done today. So, a couple things I want to do here. I definitely want to address some leaking gaskets. I want to take care of, there's the oil cooler. This is your oil cooler. There's a gasket that goes back there along the oil filter housing, and there's an oil filter housing gasket that kind of goes back down there and rests on the head. I want to replace both of those. I don't think the oil cooler gasket's leaking, but it's great preventative maintenance to take care of it. There's also some like O-rings for some of the oil lines. See the oil lines coming off of it? There's O-rings on this side and also on the actual cooler itself. I want to take care of them. Going down here, let me get you some light here. Yeah, there we go. You can see the beauty cover's all cracked up. And there is some fresh oil down there. Let's see if we can get some shots of the fresh oil. Yeah, you see the fresh oil? That's really bad. Valve cover gasket is toast. That's the main thing I want to do here because it's leaking like a sieve. I also want to take care of this kind of lopey, notchy idle. And it even misfires when it's real cold. So I think that's due to carbon deposit in the intake on the head. And I'm going to walnut blast it. The walnut blasting kit also comes with all the gaskets you need for the throttle body, the intake plenum. I'm going to see if I need some gaskets maybe for the injectors, because I know I got to take the injectors off to get to the valve cover. So any gasket that I run into, I'm going to be replacing because I want to regasket the entire top of this thing. I want no leaks from the top of this engine after I'm done. All right, so some of the first things that I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this little cover, this black cover piece off here. While I'm doing that, I also want to realign the hood latches because I feel like they're not engaging quite as crisply as I would like them to. So I'm going to take this off. I'm also going to take the intake off. I'm going to see about taking the radiator out, take this stupid beauty cover off, take all the plastic back here off. That's your cabin filter there. So you have two cabin filters on a 5 Series. You got one over there and one over there. I left that one off from the last video when I did the brakes because I knew I was going to be doing this. So take that one off and should give me enough room to get this beauty cover off, and then we'll see where we're at once we get to that point. All right, so I'm going to take off this little cover first, and there's bolts there's one, 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 there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 T30s, Torx, and then there's 2. These I believe are your adjusters for to like hold your radiator in. I don't necessarily know if you need to remove those or not, but those are T50. We're gonna move these bolts first and see if we need to take those out. Should be pretty straightforward and easy. So that was a little disturbing how loose these were. Somebody's definitely taken this off before, which, I mean, honestly, there's a couple of reasons you got to do this, so it doesn't surprise me, but these were way too loose. I also forgot you got to disconnect the cables here. You just pop that little thing off, and they just pop right out, and then you can remove the whole thing as a unit. The little hood latch release thing here, it's supposed to just pop out. These are just like little push pins, and they just pull right out. That one didn't make it. Yeah, it broke. So that really sucks. Formed into the plastic, so that's not cool. So just be very careful with that, because apparently these are fragile. At least mine was. But now I can take this whole piece off. And it's gone. Getting this intake off it's actually not that bad. So as you saw, there was just these little clips here. You just pop them right back off. They hold themselves in. Pull the entire top off. You actually don't technically need to do that, honestly. I just did it to see if there's any bolts or anything holding this thing in. Took the air filter out, which you saw was pretty bad looking. I'm going to address that then. And then there's some hose clips holding the boost hoses on. There's that side, holding that side, and then that side. You just undo those. They're either a flathead screwdriver or a 6mm wrench. Loosen them up, pull them back. You might have to get, this is the diverter valve right here. I just pulled that off. It's just you push it in and pull it off. And I was able to get that tube moved back, and then that tube moved that way. And then it's just held in with compression. You just pull it straight up. You just got to watch out for this vacuum hard line here. Make sure you don't get that in the way as you pull out. Easy. All right, let's get that back plastic off. All right, just as a reminder to myself, I'm going to make sure that I bag all these bolts here. These were for that radiator cover thing there, and I'm also going to I'm not going to label these because they only fit one way here, but I am just going to wrap some tape around it so I remember to plug these back in. This is your hood sensor to make sure your hood's closed, and this guy, in the previous video I mentioned it, I still have no idea what this thing is, but I'll make sure I plug it back in when I get to that point. But it's always important to label and organize all your parts that you take off your car. At least you forget to put something else back in, like somebody forgot to put that pop rivet back in, or forgot to tighten all the radiator bolts down. I mean, that's why those things happen, is because people they forget. These cables back here, I got that little plastic piece off. They're just held onto the strut bar here, and they're held in with like a little pop rivet, whatever those things are called. They're like little clips that go down in, and then you push another pin into it to spread them out. So there's one on that side, and there's supposed to be one on this side that wasn't missing, so I got to replace that when I get to it. And then just pull it off the bar, and then these pop out of there. The next thing I'm going to do when I come back is probably take this beauty cover off and see about how I get the intake plenum off here. Looks like there's a pin here. You pull that up, and that throttle body should come off, or at least the intake tube should come off. We'll see. So far, so good. All right, that's as good a place as any to stop for the day. Football's coming on a little bit here, and I'm going to go grab some beers, wash up, and catch the games. Before I do that, though, I just want to stress, because it's like the number one thing for me, how important it is to have good organization and cleanliness when you're doing any kind of project. Because you know what? I've never worked on an N54 before at any point, and I'm kind of just bumbling through it. But you know, I'm gonna organize all my parts. I'm gonna take my time, and that's so important. Take your time when you do this, because like I said, I've never worked on this thing before, and I don't want to screw anything up. So I'm going to take my time. I'm going to research everything. I'm not going to rush through anything. It might take me a week to get through this walnut blasting job, whereas a professional could do it, you know, in a couple hours. I'm just not at that level because I've never done this before. So I'm just going to take my time, and I'm going to do it confidently and hopefully capably. But yeah, join me next time when I hopefully get a lot further through this walnut blasting job. Sasquatch. I have no idea what that is. It's been there for probably about a year now at this point. Just some farmer messing around. It's cool. Somebody's got a project car over there. That's like an Acura. Looks like the doors are off of it. I love project cars. That's why I'm doing this.